Hey everyone, and welcome to my Cold Convert Champion Blade Vortex overview. The defensive aspect of this build relies mainly on stacking evasion and converting to armor through the iron reflexes node. With very little investment, we can obtain a fair amount of physical damage reduction while still leaving room for decent damage even without a 5 or 6 link chest. This build uses a dagger in the main hand to allow the use of whirling blades, and a scepter singularity in the offhand to provide cast speed, flat added damage to spells, and a great damage buff to mobs within the blade vortex range. For armor, this build prioritizes high evasion pieces with life and as many resistances as possible. In the glove slot, we use Rimburn to convert our physical damage to cold and provide a small amount of flat added damage to spells. For accessories, we're looking for maximum life, resistances, and a source of damage such as spell damage or cold damage. On the amulet, implicit +1 to curses. Percentage based evasion or armor on the amulet and flat on our rings is also beneficial. For ring bases, opal is preferred and 2 stone is optional. Early on in a league, before we obtain enough evasion through gear, an essence worm socketed with the grace gem to provide additional evasion is highly recommended. In our belt slot, a rustic sash with life and resistances is what I prefer to run. For enchants, a helmet with blade vortex damage from Uberlab is by far the best option we have. For glove enchant, an Of the Tempest or Of Frost is preferred. Alternatively, a corrupted pair with cast speed is also a great option. For boots, I prefer either attack speed and cast speed if you've killed recently, or elemental penetration if you have not killed recently. Alright, moving on to the gem setup. In our main Blade Vortex link, the optimal support setup, as far as I can tell, is Spell Echo, Concentrated Effect, Added Fire, Controlled Destruction, and Hypothermia. If you're doing content with bosses that can't be chilled, such as Shaper or the Guardians, use Cold Pen in place of Hypothermia. In our first 4-link item, we take Herald of Ice, Enlighten, Blasphemy Support, and Warlord's Mark. In our second 4-link, we take Increased Duration, Rallying Cry, Vaal Grace, and Decoy Totem for situational use. In our third 4-link, we take Whirling Blades, Faster Attack, Culling Strike, and Fortify. In our first weapon 3-link, we take Cast when Damage Taken, Summon Flame Golem, and Frost Bomb for the extra cold penetration. I usually leave these at around level 58. In our second weapon link, I socket Flame Dash, Faster Casting, and Elemental Weakness. I typically run 2 Life Flasks, 1 Panic Divine, and 1 Saturated Eternal. Additional Evasion or Staunching are the best options for this build. For utility flasks, I like to run Taste of Hate and Aziri's Promise. You could also run Sin's Rebirth in place of Taste of Hate or Aziri's Promise, although I think Taste of Hate and Aziri's Promise are better. The Wise Oak is a really good choice to replace a Life Flask if you feel like you don't need it. In our last flask slot, I tend to run a Mana Flask so that I can ramp up Blade Vortex when no mobs are around to Rallying Cry. As far as skill tree goes, it's fairly flexible. We want to make sure we pick up Iron Reflexes, Unwavering Stance, Elemental Overload, and Vaal Pact. For minor keystones, we want to get Winter Spirit to bring us up to 90% cold conversion, as much skill effect duration as possible, as many life nodes as possible, and some supplemental damage. Type of stats we want to prioritize on our jewels are maximum life and any types of spell damage. That includes cold damage and physical damage as well. For our last 10% of cold conversion, we corrupt our scepter. And that about wraps it up. If you end up trying this build, please let me know in either my forum thread or by posting a comment here. And if you have any suggestions, please do leave those as well.